Hey everyone, this is Roland here. Welcome and thank you for being here. And today I want to talk about what voice are you listening to, because it's so important. Because in this time, there are so many other voices out there, voices that are wanting to distract us and to instill fear and cause confusion in us, right? And those are all of the enemy. And that is why it's so important to know God's voice and to desire to seek God's voice even more in your life, right? And I was on the other day, and as we talk about all this, the other day I came across this list, and the author was making a comparison between God's voice and Satan's voice. And I want to share those things in the hope that you will be able to detect, one, the enemy's voice, so that you can resist and reject him speaking, because the enemy always wants his voice to be the loudest, right? So he can we can destroy you and kill you, right? And take you out and make sure that you do not accomplish God's purpose for your life. But God, on the other hand, wants to lead you into a place of victory, into a place of peace, into a place of family with him, right? So let's go through this list, and then from there we can wrap up. And it's God's voice versus Satan's voice. And God's voice stills you, it leads you, it reassures you. God's voice encourages you, comforts you, calms you, and convicts you. Now look at the enemy's voice and look at how different it is. And Satan's voice rushes you, it pushes you, frightens you, confuses you, discourages you, worries you, and condemns you. And as I went through that list, my hope is that, like I said, you will be able now to detect that the enemy is speaking, right? So that you can resist and reject that, because again, he wants his voice to be the most loudest in your life over God's voice, but that cannot be the case. And instead, we need to seek more and more of God, so we can be led into that place of victory, into that place of peace, into that place of relationship with him. So with that, I've come to the end of this episode. Again, my hope is that desire to know God's voice. And remember, in John 10 verse 3, we as his sons and daughters, we should know his voice, right? So that should be our one of our most important desires, that we know his voice. So with that, I've come to the end of this episode. I will see you next week, and God bless.